And if I was her lawyer, I would tell her to stay away from social media. I think what she's doing is despicable. She's posting about Pat Perez having a small.
When he started talking to you, how did you diffuse the situation? How long did it go on for?
It was a minute or a minute and a half. So yeah,
folks. In this very special episode of Big Boy Pants Golf, I've got New York's leading divorce attorney, DR. He's got to keep a low profile. Cops are looking for him. He's in his car. It's the most intense video yet. We got to talk about three of the very strangest women in golf, and it's all happening right now in the last 6 weeks or so. DR, how are you doing, bro?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. Pleasure to be on the channel. Looking forward to having a nice discussion about some red flags and some oddities and the crossover between the divorce world and the sports world.
Crazy chick number one, Ashley Perez. Let's get into it.
My Instagram platform is not me promoting myself and my body in a sexual way for you guys to go home and enjoy yourself with.
Looks like the Prince of Live Golf, Pat Perez, did not in fact find a good one. I'm sure anybody who follows this knows somebody found a filing from I believe it's Maricopa County from November. I don't think it came out until maybe January or early this month. They had quietly filed for divorce.
There's a timing issue because you still see the photos of everyone so happy together. But if you've already filed it,
I was trying to figure that out also. And I know when I was at Live Bedminster, I guess maybe that was in August. And I think she was still in the mix at that point. She was definitely very prominently around in, I think, the early second Live season. She was always posting, I guess the private jets were probably season 1 of Live, though. But She was always showing herself getting lushy and, lit in the hospitality suites. She was always posting pictures with the other wives at events. She was making fun of Xander Schauffele and Patrick Cantlay's wives, right, being boring. So this has to be within the past year that things got bad, but I would even guess maybe it's got to be 6 months. This is all happening in a whirlwind. It's very strange to me because she's already on Instagram now with some other guy. I mean, and it's a very weird way to go about things. And if I was her lawyer, I would tell her to cut it out, to stop it. Unless their divorce is already finalized and she's already worked custody and everything out already, I would tell her to stay away from social media. I think what she's doing is despicable. She's posting about Pat Perez having a small dick.
Size matters.
Why is she going there? This dude literally has made her wealthy beyond her wildest dreams.
Yeah, I think that when, the personality type, while she, and she posts all this woe is me, victimhood mentality. I think that's going to be a theme tonight, the victimhood mentality and the victimhood Olympics. She's saying, oh, I should have noticed the red flags and I was married to a narcissist.
Is she the narcissist? Because you see the photos and that looks like narcissism to me.
It seems like she's more concerned about what people on Instagram feel about her than people who actually matter. I mean, if you look at her Instagram lately, and I've been taking notice of this because I knew we would discuss it, but even in the past couple days, she's probably posted 10 times as many things about her and her new boyfriend than her kids. That shows where her head is at. Just to be flaunting all of this stuff so publicly is very strange. I find it very off-putting, and legally, if they were still in the midst of their divorce and fighting over custody, her Instagram would be exhibit A, B, C, all the way through probably double, we'll say double D in her case, but there's probably more than 26 examples of it.
How often do you see women like this act like this nowadays, especially with everyone wanting to have a social media presence?
I've dealt with maybe 1 or 2 instances where the wife is an aspiring wannabe influencer. Everybody seems to be an wannabe aspiring influencer these days. The first thing a judge will do in court is to very succinctly, unambiguously tell both parties, don't do anything on social media that is going to reflect negatively on you, that's going to make your kids think poorly of their father or mother. I think her kids are probably too young to be reading now what she's writing, But you have to imagine if she's putting this all online, she's probably telling her kids some inappropriate things. And guess what? In a couple of years, when the kids are older, they're going to Google their dad because they're going to be proud of him that he was a famous golfer and he provided them this great life. And the first thing that's going to pop up is a New York Post story about Ashley Perez talking about Pat Perez's penis.
Over 15,000 men turned their baby carrots into thick, girthy cucumbers.
The word despicable sums it up, right?
It shows a type of vanity that I would never, I'm not familiar with. Most people are not familiar with. But, her entire life is putting on a show for people on Instagram.
Hello, my Instagram family. I feel so dumb having to get on here and do this video for you guys.
Now I guess she's got her little espresso martini brand that her husband probably funded, which he should get a piece of if he had a good attorney. But if this custody stuff is not already worked out, I would be hammering the shit out of her. I mean, if I was Pat Perez's attorney. Again, I have to put a disclaimer on here. I am licensed and practice in New York. The laws state to state are very different, both with money and with custody. So I can't really say definitively how it works in Arizona, but this behavior would be highly frowned upon in New York. And it just shows a extreme lack of prioritizing your children over your own whims and your own, I guess, instant gratification and self-gratification. Because it's weird. I mean, it seems like this came about very recently. She's already got a new man all over her Instagram. And at the same time, she's kind of projecting a lot of these things onto her ex. And she seems to be pretty awful. I mean, it's not enough in these cases sometimes where for people to just move on and be happy. They have to kind of turn the other people into a villain at the same time. Right. And I think that's going to be another theme we kind of touch on tonight with some of the other people that we're going to discuss. It's not enough to advocate for yourself and whatever cause you're advocating for. You have to find a villain also, and you have to take someone down in the process in order to lift yourself up, right?
Compare this with Gisele and Tom Brady. No one was really dragged through the mud there, were they? It just kind of ended.
It's none of them were, they did this very responsibly. I think they put their kids first and they realized, hey, the priority is the kids. It really makes no difference, and it really doesn't help anything to kind of be the winner in the court of public opinion, right? Even though they are very public figures, at the end of the day, it really means nothing. And I think something just came out with Tom Brady today in the news where he's learning how to deal with Gisele's new, lover or whatever. It seems like they're getting serious. I know I sound like one of the people who reads the gossip papers, but only really when it comes to the stuff that I do for a living. So that's the way that you're supposed to handle it. You're supposed to say publicly, you know what? If she moves on, I'm happy for her. It didn't work out. We have kids together. Let's be the best co-parents we can be. Let's be the best kind of teammates we can be when it comes to raising your kids. The one thing I tell people is you are not going to be married anymore, but you're always going to be a family. As long as you have children, you're always going to be a family. You're not going to be husband and wife. You're not going to love each other anymore, but you are still part of a family unit. And that's what has to always be the priority, is how is my behavior going to affect my children? And the way to do it is to put on, as much as you may hate the other person, you got to put on a friendly face. You got to be respectful. You never talk down about the other party in front of the kids. It's just anything that, listen, when you're famous, and I don't know what it's like to be famous, and I don't know what it's like to personally get divorced, but these people are going to Google their parents' names in the future. And this is stuff that's going to come up. When you Google Tom Brady, yeah, he's a great football player. But for now that his football career is over, the most recent search engine results are going to be about his divorce with Gisele. So you just have to be responsible about that for the kids. The kids should always come first in this arena. And if you're a parent who doesn't have the self-control or the mental fortitude to do that, that's a red flag. And that really reflects negatively on your own, mental health and your own personality.
In terms of victim Olympics, we've got other women in golf And it's insane because the first time I saw this was this lady on CNN, the Jazzy Golfer. She takes over in Living Golf from this older dude, get rid of the old white guy who's been doing it forever. Now she takes over, and within a few months, she's holding up a cardboard sign where suddenly she goes to a tee box, and they're like, hey, that's not the ladies' tees. You got to go to the ladies' tees. And now she's having this movement where her sign says, these aren't women's tees. It gets me really wondering, did that situation really even happen?
Yeah, and that's what I touched on before, right? It's not enough. Like I looked at, I looked at her social media, and I kind of looked, delved into a little bit about, what she's about. It seems like she's very involved in women's golf clubs and programs and trying to promote, women in golf. But again, it doesn't seem like she was getting the traction maybe that she was hoping for by just doing things normally.
Not only that, but I actually contacted her on Twitter and pointed out that another women's golf magazine was complaining that the tees weren't far forward enough for women. So now you got two different competing narratives here. Let's try to victim each other and silence on both ends. But yes, please continue. She didn't get any traction, this Jazzy Golfer.
Yeah, it just, like I said before, it's not enough to advocate for the position or the cause that's near and dear to you. You have to find a villain these days, it seems like, to elevate yourself.
Turn their baby carrots into thick, girthy cucumbers.
To get to a different stratosphere with these things. I don't believe in the slightest that she claims this was a member of the course, right? So it's probably a nice course. Probably it sounds like a club if you're a member there. You think some member is running out of the clubhouse to the first tee box if he sees a woman playing from the gold tees instead of the red tees? What kind of maniac runs off the porch of a clubhouse? First, who's paying attention to who's teeing off on one? Second, you think this this made up person saw a woman about to tee off from the second front tees and said, no, those are the women's tees. Women have to play from the women's tees. Like, it doesn't seem realistic at all. I certainly have never seen anything like that in all the rounds of golf that I've played. I mean, most of the women, when I'm randomly paired up with, a husband and wife, most of the women do play from the forward tees. But if they don't, I think if some guy ran up to her and demanded that you play from the reds, I think that would be the most bizarre thing in the world. It just seems completely unrealistic. And it seems like, again, we have to figure out some sort of imaginary boogeyman to elevate whatever cause I'm trying to further here.
So to me, again, I also agree. It seems fabricated. And not only that, now you have this new situation that's popping up with, I think her name is Georgia Ball. She's a teaching pro in the UK. She's suddenly being interrupted in this practice session she's having on the range by some guy. You don't see him ever. And now he's giving her some advice. And she's making faces at the camera. And we've seen this before on these gym videos. It's the same exact formula. Some guy's creeping on you or bothering you. And you know the phrase they're going to use is always mansplaining.
Do you think he was mansplaining?
I mean, I have a lot of conversations. I get a lot of advice, and most of the time it's positive. So in that situation, it was.
And you know who jumps in there with mansplaining? The Jazzy Golfer, the same chick who's holding up the sign. She pops up on her Instagram and uses the phrase mansplaining again. It's a feminist term from like 2008 or 2009. It's killing me. And it just shows that there's some kind of coordinated effort, because Georgia Ball, within days, already has a Cobra Puma sponsorship and a video out.
Yeah, I saw that, and I wore my Puma golf hat to be ironic in honor of Georgia Ball. I think, like you said, it was like when Elon Musk first took over Twitter, and I think the algorithm was a little off, and the only videos anybody got on their timelines were like women shaming guys in the gym and like schoolyard fights. Right? For like a couple of weeks, it seems like those were the only videos you would see. So maybe it was inspired by that. But when I saw the Cobra Puma sponsorship deal, like you said, right afterwards, it seems more likely that this was a setup, not either a setup and some dumb schlub fell into the trap, or it was just completely scripted. And the guy off screen that you never saw was just part of this, viral marketing campaign before she got rolled out with Cobra Puma, because it seems very A, it seems very quick, and B, this woman is still a relative nobody. She's a PGA professional somewhere. I mean, like, this is
Yes.
not someone that would normally get this sort of, deal.
You can look on her Instagram. She was trying to be that Instagram personality. She's working that profile. So then she'll work with anyone to get that big bump because she wanted to begin with. It's a little bit more of that whole narcissism, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, first off, if I was doing this podcast with you in a public place, right? And someone overheard me talking about divorce law or family law and tried to come over to me and tell me how I was wrong about something and they were right because their first cousin's brother got divorced and he knows what's going on, I would straight up say, dude, shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. This is my wheelhouse. This is what I do. The fact that she wouldn't just shut this guy down.
I mean, as a humble person, it's just not in me to say I'm a professional golfer and I know what I'm doing. So it just wasn't in me to say that to him.
It seems like she was kind of milking it to see how ridiculous can this video get. So maybe it wasn't scripted, but it seems like one of those gym videos where they know that 20 times more people are going to watch it if there's some confrontation as opposed to watching your swing video, right? Or your workout video.
Her views have spiked, so it seems to have worked.
Yeah, I mean, that's what, I mean, again, it all goes back to, at the end of the day, I don't know people of a certain age what they're doing these days. I'm sure they'd rather get rich and, do what they have to do to support themselves by having hundreds of thousands of social media followers as opposed to just being a PGA professional like she's being, or being a CNN international correspondent or host like the other woman. But it's hard these days to really trust that anything on the internet along these lines and in this vein is authentic.
You are a divorce attorney. You've seen women like this before. There's some red flags. Can you help the bros out there who, before they fall into this trap, or the ones that are already in it, and what do they got to do?
So we have a phrase in our business that elephants don't marry giraffes, right? So right off the bat, the guys who would fall into these traps with these women are probably a little off anyways. If you're going out and you're simping for a person like this Jazzy Golfer, who clearly has a problem with men, I don't know what to tell you about that seems like you have some issues yourself that you might need to focus on. People usually find partners that they deserve. It's not always true, but I don't know what happened in the Pat Perez case. I know his wife you can look back when they got together in like 2016 or whatever it was. She wasn't this plastic surgeried out, weird looking kind of science experiment.
Is that a red flag? You get a nice normal girl and all of a sudden she's like, she wants to be one of the real housewives of Scottsdale.
I think it's definitely weird when a good-looking woman, a younger woman, still feels the need to go under the knife excessively. I think Holly Saunders, if we're sticking with golf, is a perfect example of that. Holly Saunders was a beautiful woman, and she just looks weird now. It's like it doesn't seem like there's a month that goes by where she hasn't done some plastic surgery. And there are guys who, I guess, like Oscar De La Hoya, who clearly don't care.
Well, I mean, how many brain cells does he have left? Because he had a little bit of the old nose booger habit.
Right, exactly. I don't think she was pulling like the greatest people in the world. Like, I mean, Vegas Dave, I think, was her last. But again, was the Vegas Dave Holly Saunders thing even real? I didn't see that as being real. I think they were just both using each other to kind of, again, everything on social media, who knows what these people are really doing for what purpose. But yes, I would say that if you have a woman that is so unhappy with the way she looks, even when she's clearly more attractive than the overwhelming majority of other women in the world, I think there's something off there. I think there's also something off when you're a guy like Pat Perez. You probably are not pulling the most wholesome, ideal woman at, dinner when you're in Vegas for vacation. I mean, so again, I think that it's hard to give a general piece of advice or two. All I would say is that, I think people usually end up with people they deserve. And listen, does Pat Perez seem like the easiest guy to deal with? He probably doesn't care about anything except golf and his sneaker collection, right? He probably not an emotionally available like person.
I think he's emotionally available for Michael Jordan, but that's about it.
Right, exactly. So again, I mean, like, he probably is a guy who found a piece of ass who was into him. He didn't have to put a lot of work in. She probably pursued him. She's probably an athlete chaser. Her new guy is a flamed out athlete also. And it was probably convenient for him. And he probably didn't really, he probably let her do her own thing for the most part, and he did his own thing. Listen, I can't imagine they spent that much time together if he's, a professional golfer. But it did seem like she was following him around on Live because she liked the private jets and the lifestyle. But I'm sure it was convenient for him. The Jazzy Golfer lady, if you're the kind of simp that would go for a person like that, like I said, who's clearly a man-eater, who clearly is some weird raging feminist, you're not the type of probably high quality man that's going to do much better anyways.
You deserve what you get in that case, basically, right?
Yeah, I mean, again, like I said, elephants don't marry giraffes, right? To some extent, both people kind of probably have their own personality issues, and there's a reason why people end up together at the end of the day. I don't really know, I can't really comment too much on this Georgia Ball lady.
More is going to come out. Almost guaranteed it's fake.
Yeah, but her personality is not really on display as much as those other two that we just discussed.
That eye roll says it all. When she looks back at the camera and rolls her eyes, I mean, just like, I think every guy should just be like, oh, no, just walk away.
Yeah, that's why it just seems like to find that perfect kind of patsy and idiot to step into that situation and just continue to be as relentless as he was and not just get the hint. And especially after seeing her stripe a ball, I would keep walking. She's clearly better than I am at golf. Like, this guy should have known, like, what is this guy doing? But again, if it's real and this guy really had this interaction with her, that guy's an asshole. I mean, let's be honest. Like, yes, is he mansplaining to her? Yes, he's mansplaining to her, but he's just being weird. I don't know if it's maybe, the tight pants that she was wearing grabs his attention or, what it was. But it takes a certain type of weirdo also to walk up to someone at a driving range unsolicited and give them swing advice.
I saw it on the Rage on Saturday. Some dude next to me was all PGA pro'd out, had all the gear on. Horrible golfer. New set of clubs. The guy over the stall, one stall away, for no reason, just starts giving him swing advice. I see it every time I go out there on the range. Just random dudes will give people advice. That's their thing. That's their kink. It doesn't mean anything other than the fact that, hey, you don't want to see a person shank a ball.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess that's maybe a difference in my personality where I go through life just trying my hardest not to interact or talk with strangers whenever possible. Maybe it's the New Yorker in me, but some people are just very strange. Listen, maybe it's just because I'm not a good golfer, but I would never think to go up to a woman hitting, or even a man hitting the ball like that and be like, oh, I can fix your, like you just said, like, oh, I can fix your swing with this one small, tip, like, try this. Like, who does, like, I mean, it takes a certain type of weirdo to do that.
DR, maybe the best divorce lawyer in New York. Thank you so much for weighing in on these crazy, toxic women of golf.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be on the hottest YouTube golf channel, Big Boy Pants Golf. I appreciate you having me. Hopefully we'll do this again sometime soon. Listen, there will always be stories, so I'm sure we'll have plenty to talk about in the future.
They aren't going to get rid of all the crazy women at once. Boom.
But you've done a very good job of sort of not outing him, because, I mean, this poor guy, you could destroy him, couldn't you?